Turn your cameras on. We're doing something a little bit differently today. Give you a little break from all the intense workouts you guys have been doing. Whether you've been doing them on here, on the YouTube channel, or coming up with your own. You guys are doing a lot. You guys have been doing great. So we're going to give you kind of a little bit of a break today. For these 20 minutes at least. Okay, you should still, get your workout in. But today we're going to talk about the importance of breathing, okay? Because as we start to prepare to get back into the water, okay, we have a week and a half, right? Okay, you guys are all excited. Okay, about a week and a half before we're back in the water. So I wanted to take this time to, take full advantage of that week and a half. So when we get back into the water, we can get back in efficiently, okay? And we're not wasting too much time to get on that first day back. Okay, naturally it's going to take a little bit of time as we build into it, but there's some things we can control now that we're going to focus on. Okay, and that being breathing. Okay, so we want to talk about breathing a little bit today. One, get you thinking about breathing a little bit differently, help you breathe a little bit more efficiently, so that we can get back into the water and be able to breathe, do a couple, do a few strokes without needing a breath, not having to take a breath every stroke, or, double breathing, stuff like that. Because I don't know, have any of you been practicing breath holding while you've been running, exercising, sit-ups, push-ups? Audrey, nice. Couple of you. Okay, it's not something we naturally think to do on land. Okay, as swimmers in the water, you naturally got to hold your breath, otherwise you're going to suck in a bunch of water. But on land, it's not something we naturally think to do. Okay, we don't naturally think, I'm going to take a breath every 5 steps I'm running or walking, or I'm going to breathe every 5th push-up. But there's been a lot of research done to show a lot of benefits to breath holding, and we're going to cover a few of those. That is so important, in fact, that they've kind of taken what we're already doing in swimming and they're applying that to a lot of sports. So you'll see a lot of the elite runners practicing the same breathing techniques we're already doing in the water. They just have to do it on land, right? We're going to go through five important kind of key aspects to breathing. Again, just kind of get you to think about breathing a little bit differently and help you kind of breathe a little bit more efficiently. Okay? And again, the purpose, being as we practice these breath holding techniques, we'll get back in the water and not having, struggling for air. Okay? So kind of the first one is learning to breathe through your nose. Okay? And obviously this one applies to, land exercises. Okay, I don't expect you to breathe through your nose in the water. Okay, I've never tried that. I don't even know if it's possible. I think you would just get a bunch of water up your nose if you turn your head and just breathe through your nose. But there's a lot of benefits to breathing through your nose. Okay, one is it's going to lead to a deeper diaphragmatic breathing. Okay, versus, that short, shallow, breathing we do through the chest. Okay, you can kind of feel, if you had your hand on your chest here and on your stomach, you can feel the difference between breathing through your chest, the lungs here, and then a diaphragmatic breathing here, breathing that deeper breath, okay? And that deeper kind of nasal breathing is going to help you feel a little bit more relaxed. Okay, it's going to help open up your airways, and it's going to dilate your blood vessels, which is going to allow for better oxygen delivery. And as athletes, we really want to focus on increasing that oxygen delivery to our muscles, to our tissues, right? The more efficient our body is at delivering that oxygen, the better we're going to be able to perform. If our body's not that efficient at delivering that oxygen, we're going to get fatigued faster, whether it's in sets or in the race. So we really want to focus on being a little bit more efficient in our breathing. Other thing we want to think about when it comes to breathing through the nose is it's going to increase our levels of nitric oxide. Okay, if you're not familiar with nitric oxide, it's a gas that our body naturally produces when we breathe through the nose. It's something that's produced in the nasal cavity. Okay, and this nitric oxide is the body's natural vasodilator, okay, which relaxes the inner muscles of our blood vessels, causing the blood vessels to widen, okay, which is going to increase that blood flow and increase the delivery of that oxygen, okay, to our muscles and tissues, okay. And a natural way to kind of produce this nitric oxide is to hum, okay. So researchers found the best way to produce that is to hum. So if you do a lot of humming throughout the day, you love music and you're constantly humming, you're constantly producing this, that's great, keep it up. But always think about humming. So throughout the day, you should be having your mouth closed and breathing or humming through the nose, okay? And the other thing breathing through the nose is gonna help with is it's gonna help avoid over-breathing, okay? Which kind of goes into our next point about less is more. Okay, so when it comes to breathing, less is more. Okay, which doesn't kind of sound right at first, right? You kind of think, okay, I want to breathe to get oxygen, right? But what they found was we breathe not because we need oxygen. Yes, our body needs oxygen, okay? But we are actually breathing to expel carbon dioxide rather than take in oxygen. So yes, we need to take in oxygen, but that breathing is allowing for that release of carbon dioxide, that CO2. Okay? Because they found the amount of oxygen our muscles and tissues are able to use is not really solely dependent on the amount of oxygen in our blood. Okay? They found that our red blood cells are already saturated with between 95 to 99% saturation levels, okay? Which is more than enough that our body needs for intense exercises, okay? When we put you through a hard workout, that oxygen's already there, and that's what we use, okay? But taking in more oxygen with bigger, deeper breaths does not increase the amount of oxygen our muscles are able to use. Okay, so a lot of people think I'm going to hyperventilate, really get that oxygen into my lungs. Okay, the oxygen's already there. Getting that oxygen in through hyperventilation or other breathing techniques some people do isn't very helpful. What we really want to think about, again, is having our body be able to use the oxygen it already has. Okay. Just because we're getting in oxygen doesn't mean our body is using that oxygen. Okay, so we can take in a lot of oxygen through hyperventilation, but our body isn't necessarily going to use that. Okay, so what we want to focus on is being able to use, getting that oxygen out of the red blood cells that are already there. Okay, so that our muscles and tissues can use that. Okay, and that is actually what carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is what allows for the release of the oxygen from our red blood cells. Okay, and the other thing is breathing through the mouth, we lose that carbon dioxide. So if we're losing that carbon dioxide, we're losing that ability for our body to release that oxygen. Okay, so we want to think about increasing, carbon dioxide. As we increase our carbon dioxide, that's going to increase our blood pH levels, which is going to, blood pH levels and hemoglobin, and the hemoglobin that releases its load. So when hemoglobin releases, then that's signaling to the body that it needs to release oxygen, So that buildup of carbon dioxide in our body is signaling to our brain that we need oxygen, so it's going to release that hemoglobin that releases that oxygen to our body. Whereas the opposite, so if we're decreasing that carbon dioxide, it has the opposite effect. It increases our blood pH level and cause the hemoglobin to hold on to its load, okay, which isn't going to release that oxygen, okay? So the way to think about it is the more we breathe, the more we lose carbon dioxide, and hemoglobin holds on to the oxygen, which equals, feeling, that breathlessness, okay? So what we really want to think about here, as we kind of get into this third point here, is, really think about breathing slowly and quietly through the nose, okay? Everything we do throughout the day, whether we're just walking around or we're doing homework, watching a show, whatever, really think about breathing slowly, breathing quietly through the nose. If you were to take a second right now and you were to breathe through your nose, okay, would you hear that? Kind of, deep inhale through the nose. Would you be able to hear that? Or can you breathe, kind of control that so you're breathing slowly and quietly through the nose? Another thing we want to think about is strengthening that diaphragm, okay? Strengthening that diaphragm is going to help that blood oxygen level, okay? And then the last thing kind of think about is striving for a BOLT score of 40 seconds, and we'll get into that, what that is a little bit. So BOLT standing for blood oxygen levels, blood oxygen level test, and they score that by how long you hold your breath under these given circumstances, which we'll go over. And ideally, as an athlete, we want to work on increasing that score up to 40 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to explain how we measure that, how we're going to measure our blood oxygen levels, and then we're going to go through it real quick, and we'll get your score, okay? So how to measure it, you're going to take a normal breath in through the nose, okay, normal breath in, normal breath out, okay, so you're not trying to get as much air in as you can, and you're not exhaling all your air, so you have nothing left. It's just a normal breath in, normal breath out, okay? After that exhale, okay, you're going to hold your breath, you can plug your nose, okay, so you don't allow any oxygen to get into your lungs, okay? And then we're going to time from the end of your exhale to your essentially when you need to breathe. So that first sign of you needing a breath, okay, which is usually, okay, as swimmers we experience this all the time when we need that breath, where you're kind of gulping for water, you kind of feel that lump in your throat, you kind of start swallowing for water, like I need a breath, or that diaphragmatic, contractions, those involuntary contractions you kind of feel in the lungs and the diaphragm or in the throat. Okay, that's the point we're going to. It's kind of that first sign of needing a breath. Okay, so what it's not a score to see how long we can hold our breath. Okay, we're not going to the point of exhaustion or about to pass out. It's just up to that point of that first sign of air. Okay, when we start to kind of gulp a little bit for air, once you kind of feel that, okay, then you can start breathing normal a little bit. Okay, and then get your time when you start breathing again. Okay, so again, to review, normal breath in, normal breath out, hold. I'll start the time. You can plug your nose. You can make sure you know oxygen is entering the lungs. Okay, any questions? Okay, we're going to get into it. Hopefully you can see I got a timer on the screen there. It's not backwards for you, is it? It's backwards for me, because I'm looking at it backwards. But, okay. As long as you can see it, and I'll kind of call out increments too here as we go through. Okay? All right, normal breath in, normal breath out, and hold. Plug your nose if you want. Okay, and again, you're just staying relaxed. You're just going to that first sign of needing a breath. Okay, make sure you take a look at the time when it was. 15, 20, 23, 25, 30, good job, 32, 33, 34, good, 35, I don't know if you're still going, Devin, hopefully you didn't pass out on us. Okay, good job. So you can kind of, that's, you know, kind of a baseline to see where we're at. Just kind of an individual score to see where you're at and what, how you can improve. So again, the goal is to be able to work up to that 40 seconds where, you know, normal breath in, normal breath out, and we're able to hold that. Because what that's telling us, okay, because we can gather kind of different things from a different, you know, Bolt score, you know, 20 seconds. Okay, we're a little bit heavier on the breathing, okay. We can work on breathing a little bit quieter, you know, our normal breath, you know, when we breathe. There's always kind of a natural pause when we breathe out and in. There's always that kind of natural pause. The shorter that Bolt score, the shorter that pause is during our natural breathing. Okay, whereas the longer, you know, the higher the Bolt score, 30 seconds, 40 seconds. Okay, there's about, you know, 4 to 6 second pause between natural breathing. Okay, so wherever you're at, okay, that's kind of just a baseline to kind of build up. Is something to kind of think about as we, you know, start, you know, transitioning back into the water. Be able to really think about breath holding and be able to breathe efficiently. So we're going to go through, we got about 30 seconds here. We're going to go through one exercise you can do that you can start working over this next week and a half that will help increase that Bolt score and help, you know, that transition back into the water. So, you know, we hit that water and we, you know, forget how to hold our breath. We're going, you know, every stroke or so. But it's very similar to swimming. So I want you to think about it, you know, in terms of swimming, but we would do it walking. So, and you can do it, you know, any exercise as long as you're moving, but I would start out with walking. You would start out walking, you're gonna, you know, 30 seconds, about, you know, 30 seconds of normal breathing, and then you're gonna hold your breath, and you're gonna take about 40 to 60 steps, holding your breath, or until you have that, you know, medium to strong desire for air, okay, or that need for air, okay. After that first breath hold, then every breath hold you do after that is going to be every 5 to 10 steps, okay? So if this was like in the water, you would dive in, you would do a 25, no breath, and then every 25 you do after that is, you know, breathe in 3 to 5 strokes, okay? Same thing when we're walking, okay? Hold it 40 to 60 steps, and then breathe every 5 to 10 steps. And that breath is going to be a little sip of air, okay? And this is coming from Patrick McCone, okay, who wrote The Oxygen Advantage. And what he means as a sip of air, he means just taking a tiny breath, okay? And that purpose of that tiny breath or that tiny sip of air is more to relieve tension, okay? When you start building up, you know, you start to, you know, stomach starts to tense, or that, you know, that need for air, that tension, we want to focus on relieving that tension rather than trying to take in air. Okay, and this is something you're only going to do for a couple minutes, either as a warm-up, cool-down, or both. Okay, just so the small, you know, breath-holding exercises, or you can just do it, you know, at the end of the day, or whenever. Okay, so again, and it's not, the purpose of this isn't to, you know, again, see how long we can hold our breath. We're not going to that point of exhaustion where we're feeling lightheaded, or we feel like we're going to pass out. Again, as we talked about, that hyperventilation, okay, which causes that, you know, passing out and getting lightheaded and all that, that isn't doing the body any good, okay, which is why we don't do those, you know, long hypoxic sets in the water, because they just aren't beneficial. But breath holding exercises are beneficial, okay? So hopefully, I know that was kind of a lot to go over. We're out of time, so, you know, if you have any questions, email them to me, put them in the GroupMe chat or whatever, and we can, you know, talk a little bit more about this. So I'll send out a couple of exercises you guys can use to help, you know, work on that breath holding and increase that Bolt score. So, any questions before I do let you go?